This episode is brought to you by the UNC School of the Arts' nationally acclaimed School of Drama. Ranked number 4 in the nation by The Hollywood Reporter for 2 years running, it has produced versatile, successful actors including Jonathan Majors, Elizabeth Lail, and Dane DeHaan. Rigorous coursework is coupled with intensive production training to develop actors ready to compete at the highest level in today's demanding professional environment. Apply today at uncsa.edu/drama. Welcome to In the Envelope, a podcast from Backstage, the one-stop shop for actors and creators both above and below the line. I am your host, Vinny Mancuso, Backstage Senior Editor and Professional Entertainment Obsessive. I'll be your guide through every corner of the creative industry with the help of some of your favorite stars. Here you'll find intimate, in-depth talks with today's most award-worthy names in film, television, and theater. Along the way, we'll get advice on living your best creative life, relatable stories of the highest highs and lowest lows, and maybe, just maybe, a rare peek in the envelope.
Art and cinema, and just talk about acting, can serve as the sword of democracy. You learn so much about each other via cinema, via TV. It's integral, you know what I mean? Like, it is integral. And I wish we felt like it was okay to say that.
Welcome to In the Envelope, the Actors Podcast. I am your host, Backstage Senior Editor Vinny Mancuso, and I am so very excited that joining me today is the wonderful, the talented, the new big bad of the MCU himself, Jonathan Majors. Now, longtime listeners of the podcast, people who have been listening probably before I was even the host of this show, will recognize that this is the second time we've had Jonathan on the show, which is not something you usually do unless the situation calls for it. And folks, anytime you get the chance to talk to Jonathan Majors about acting, the situation calls for it. What a 2 years it has been for this man. He starred in the fantastic Netflix Western, The Harder They Fall. As I mentioned, he made his Marvel Cinematic Universe debut as Kang the Conqueror. There's the Korean war drama, Devotion, the bodybuilding drama, Magazine Dreams. He's got Creed 3 coming down the pipeline, directed by Michael B. Jordan. I'm sure you've watched that trailer already, maybe a few times. Jonathan Majors is busy, is the point here, and I'm so happy he found the time not only to talk to us about all of it, but to do so in a way that makes it clear just how passionate he is about his craft, why he's such a magnetic screen presence, and just how he found the success that he very clearly deserves. Let's get into it. Here is Jonathan Majors. Jonathan, thank you so much for being here. You are one of our rare two-time guests on the In the Envelope podcast. I think the last time you were here was 2 years ago. And the reason that I thought it would be fun to have you back is because a lot has happened in those 2 years. So I both professionally and the world. In these 2 years, you've joined the MCU. Creed 3 is happening, Devotion, Magazine Dreams, all of these milestones. So I guess just to start off, how do you measure these things? How do you sort of take stock of these moments in your career that make 2 years feel like a decade?
Wow.
Yeah, sorry, unloaded on you there.
Good morning. No, I think it could be interesting to tell the listeners that you and I are having to kind of work out how we're going to do this podcast because I don't have a computer.
It's a good way to start.
Yeah, so we're doing this podcast on my cell phone, which I would like to get rid of as soon as possible. But I think that kind of goes to the question. I don't really keep track. I think for me it's always been one thing at a time. And look, it's not lost on me the magnitude of the partners that I've gotten to work with over the past 2 years, as you say. And it's a humbling thing. I was extremely humbled when I was accepted into the Yale School of Drama, which is, you could call it the MCU of drama schools. Um, uh, but there was no time to the benefit of working and the responsibility of working and training at certain institutions or working with certain people is great, and so there's something quite sobering about it. That said, man, it's wicked. I mean, it's wicked. I turn on a lot. Um, I'm pretty introverted for the most part. Besides my intimates. Yeah, so I mean, I'm in New York City now,
Yeah,
and
very nice.
here for a festival, and this city holds so many memories. And so I'll see things and go, oh wow, I remember when I was there auditioning for. I remember getting the phone call for The Harder They Fall, 2 blocks up from where I'm staying now. So it's been a whirlwind, but I'm all right. Yeah, I'm pleased and ready to do whatever's next.
Absolutely. It's interesting that, you can kind of look out the window and you're like, oh, wow, I was there and that's where I was in my life. Is
Yeah,
that sort of more of how reflection works for you? Is it's almost like it comes in memories. It comes instead of, taking stock of where you
yeah,
are. Is
yeah.
it kind of like, oh, wow, look at that. That's where I was.
Yeah, I think you. I mean, you may have just figured something out for me. Yeah, I think it is. It does come in memories. In the present, it really is just a thing. It's just the thing of the time, and it's a beautiful thing, and it's great to be a part of the movement. But there is the moment of sitting and going, "Oh, this came out." Like, for instance, you and I speaking now, like, oh, 2 years ago. Oh, I'm remembering that, and now I can think of everything that is. Now it's so much in my present, everything that has already happened, up until this point. So yeah, it is a matter of reflection, because and that's a matter of protection in many ways, and a working technique, Whereas man, listen, if you think about what you got to do on the day, you'll lose it. You'll go nuts. Someone says, "Hey, you're going to play this role," or they need you to gain this weight, or you've got to play, Henry V or whatever it is. If you try to take that all in one go, I mean, good luck, pal.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. Because then it's on your shoulders. Then you're
know,
then you're holding it.
and it can lead to anxiety, which is not beneficial to the work in any way. Relaxation is key.
Has it always been like that for you, or is that something you had to learn? Is that something that came with experience, came with the years, or is that something that you learned early and has helped you get to where you are today?
Well, a few checkpoints. I mean, I grew up in a very slow culture. I grew up in Texas and spent my time between, Dallas and our family farm down in Central Texas. And it's just a slower way of life, lots of rituals, going to church, feeding the chickens, putting your clothes out for school, washing the dishes, that ritual, it was always slow, but that said, I was eager to get out, you know, in some way. So I did have a bit of impatience in that way. And just over time, I mean, I'm 33 now. I did my first professional job at 26. I mean, things change, over 6 years. And, I'm a dad and, there's just things that, that's just life, and that's the beautiful thing about being an artist, but that slow moving is something that's always been in me, but to keep moving, that's the idea
Hmm.
of farmer. My grandfather taught me so much about that mentality. He just kept working, get up, feed the chickens, feed the cows, plant this, hoe this, do this, and then you look up and you've got a whole crop full of this and a whole, you got cows dropping and now, with everything that's going on, I'm still doing the same thing I've always been doing. It doesn't mean I still don't have some of that impatience in me that I did when I was a boy, but I do understand which pill to take, you know.
I love that idea of like, slow moving is it's still moving. And I love that idea of, getting up and feeding the chickens. Doesn't feel like anything massive, but like you said, you look up one day and it's like, oh my God, look what all those days of feeding the chickens has gotten me.
Well, that I mean, what's the metaphor of that? That's getting up and okay, get up and go to the gym, man. No matter what, get up, go to the gym. Okay, after the gym, what do? You sit and you look at your lines. Doesn't matter what the day is. Doesn't matter what's going on. I mean, literally, bro. I mean, no one can see, but it's what we just got done doing. And over time, Rome wasn't built in a day. A career is not built in, overnight. Or in 6 years. Like it takes a while, but you keep doing what you're doing. And I've had a lot of good teachers and some good rearing to put some good habits in me. And I've also experienced my own ups and downs and have made up my own techniques and approaches to career and life and all that stuff.
I'm curious when, like to just sort of apply this specifically to acting, you're getting up like you just showed me, you woke up today, you're going to start learning your lines or you're going to start practicing your lines. When does it feel like it's not just putting it together and that you have it? Do you know what I mean? Like when does it feel like for you that the pieces are now something and not just building blocks?
Well, what you're talking about is when you can put it in your pocket, right? And literally, I mean, the idea is like I played Henry V. I think maybe 7 years ago now. 7 years ago now at this place called Chautauqua Theater Company, and we kind of did it unabridged. You know what I mean? And that's when that ritual really, really dropped in because there's no way you're going to be able to get up there and just do it. Even if you know the lines, you have to be able to. But what happened over time is, you can imagine the script being X amount of pages, and my scripts are torn to shit. I'm ripping pages out, and literally I'm ripping them out and I'm putting them in my pocket. And once I can rip something out and put it in my pocket, that means I'm walking around with it and I've got it. And then, if I'm stumbling on it, getting on the train or walking down the street as I'm running, I can just pull it out, And then something happens where, and this is probably for me in my practice, I guess, the mystical element of it, where all of a sudden it just kind of lands for you, and that's after you've done all the work, whatever that means. And sometimes it's fast, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes, I mean, there are certain scripts and certain scenes you can look at and go, I got it. For whatever reason, the muses that were touching the writer in that moment line up with your muses and the inspirations there. And now it's just about collaboration. Then there are times, when you're reading it and you have no idea what the fuck is going on. You have a sensation of it, and that's when you're working it and banging your head against the wall and trying to, go to museums and look. You're searching for you're hunting for it, But there comes a moment, even when it's fast or slow, that it becomes invisible, and you feel like the language and all your text work and all your characterization, begins to settle, and that's the faith element of it, where you just have to trust that, okay, on the day is going to be right. You know what I mean? The day is going to be right. And that's something I believe in ferociously, for myself. And that's just a confidence game, isn't it? You have to assume. I assume that my director, I assume that my scene partners are perfect, on the day. And if we miss a take or someone goes up on the line or the camera isn't moving in the right place, all that is a part of the plan, because all of that is a step that's going to get us to that moment. So that idea of stepping out and being like, okay, this is going to be wicked. I mean, I know what the hell I'm going to do, but it's going to be wicked.
I got to do it.
But it's all now. You know what I mean? Like that's that, that gamemanship, where you go. I mean, actors are ferocious. I mean, when they say action, the shyest. I was listening to this. Let me make sure I got it right. Yeah, I was listening to this. Who maybe Kate Blanchett. She had an article in New York Times talking about how quiet her house was. And how she had to escape it. And that action. When they say action, or it's a Western, and they say go or whatever it is. Something happens in the artist. Where you just unload. You just unload. I'm rambling now, but yeah.
Well, it's funny because that's like, I don't know, that kind of feels like the thesis, the goal of this podcast is like to try and define what happens between action and cut, because it's such an undefinable thing. It's such I think it's a different answer for everybody. It's a
Yeah.
different thing for everybody. It's that, you got to do what you got to do to get there. But once they say action, something happens. And I think that it's such a beautiful thing that it's kind of unexplainable. It's kind of unexplainable.
It's life in concentrate. You know what I mean? It's life under a microscope. And because of that, sometimes very little has to physically happen. Because remember, you're under a microscope, so if you move a little bit, if your emotions shift a little bit, it's going to be seen, and the artist and the actor's ideas, do I want to give them, am I capable of giving a drizzle, a rainstorm, or a tsunami? And what was it called for? And that's the craft of it. And then there's the part that is, you can say it's undescribable, and yet if anyone tried to describe it, they would be right because it's so subjective.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the mystical collaboration of it all, And it also depends on your preparation, I imagine. I mean, yeah, it also depends on your preparation and what it is you're trying to do and your sophistication in the art form, not necessarily your talent, but your sophistication in the art form, how aware you are of what it is you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
how strongly you cannot be aware of what you're doing, the fall. That's also something I call that moment between action and cut. It's the fall. You've worked so hard, or in some cases you haven't, but you've worked and prepared in a way to build a ladder. Your dialect, your costume, even the lights, set decoration, all of that is a part of the ladder that's being built. And depending on how high up you build that ladder, so how deep your preparation is, spiritually, emotionally, physically, socially, how deep that preparation is determines how high that ladder is. And so when they say action, or it also depends on how you work, but in this case, when they say action, you just step off the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a deep preparation, your ladder tends to be higher. And so you can just essentially free fall. And whatever happens, because as you're falling, you're passing all your homework. You know what I mean? But you're moving so fast, you can't hold on to it, which is good. You know what I mean? And so you're just falling through it, and they say cut, and sometimes you keep falling, and that's when it's really good. And sometimes you're falling the moment you get to location, but that's another way of looking at it.
And I feel like that's the other constant is the trust involved there with the collaborative nature of it all. Like you mentioned, you have to kind of assume that everyone else is just as prepared, or is just as ready for this. Not even just as prepared, it's just as ready for this as you are, whether that means emotionally, physically, or just commitment wise.
Commitment. Yeah.
You did also mention the sort of gamesmanship of the sportsmanship of it, the sort of that I'm always interested in, that the overlap between the physical nature of a role, the sort of athleticism of a role, and how you build that into storytelling. Your next sort of stretch of roles are all very physically demanding, very transformative in terms of what you've done to get ready for the role. And I'm curious how you layer that into your sort of everything you've said so far, how the overlap between physical transformation and character transformation, how you look at that in terms of adding it to whatever you're doing to get ready for this character, and not just getting bigger for bigger's sake.
Yeah, I mean, I for one, I mean, there's 100 things I could go in right now. One would be to speak to drama schools that tell students, particularly the male students, not to be. Some of us tell us, and everyone knows what schools I went to. So, you're looking at, I mean, don't work out, and it's a and like they're gonna say, no, we don't say don't work out. We're gonna say, don't get bulky and big. Well, I understand that, but the truth of the matter is, some people are big. Some characters you have to play are big. I'm going to answer your question in a second, but this is just for the homies who are sitting in drama school now, and looking at the weight room like, oh, fuck me. You know what I mean? Like, it's a part of their culture. You know what I mean? You can't tell a kid who's been playing football from Texas, I'm talking about myself, you know what I mean, and grew up on a farm, that he can't, go to the gym, you know, and keep his body strong, you know. Now being tight, something different. But people come in all shapes and sizes. So I'm just gonna say that. Shout out to the drama schools. And I know what they're talking about, and I completely agree with them. The Alexander technique is hard to do if your body is bound. However, there's balance. There's balance. To the question at hand, the physical transformation and the character transformation it's the same thing. Stanislavski, everyone talks about, the given circumstances. And those are the given circumstances. There's a picture that's coming out soon. We can talk about the ones that are here, right? So as you were saying, Creed, the Marvel picture, and this film called Magazine Dreams are all outwardly, as much as I don't like saying the word, transformative, right? But that's because the given circumstances are as such. I believe that if it says you are this, you have to be that. To suspend the imagination, you want as little of that as possible from my point of view. You don't want to fake the funk in any way. For me, I'm just talking about how I approach the game. I prefer to act as low as possible. I don't wear makeup. I don't usually cut my own hair or have my buddy cut my hair. All of that's a part of it. You know what I mean? And so when it says, this guy is a bodybuilder, for Magazine Dreams, directed by my buddy Elijah Bynum, you've got to be that. There's just don't do the role then, or do the play maybe, where there's a certain amount of we're asking the audience to suspend even more disbelief, right? Because we're acting like we don't see you and you're right in front of us. We have the fourth wall there, right? In cinema, I believe this for the roles I played. I tried to put myself in boxes, though I believed it for a long time. You got to do the thing, do the doing, that is it, and so when I was training for Creed, I was a boxer. I was living like a boxer. I was running like a boxer. I was fighting like a boxer. Your temperament will shift and change. Your diet is different. Your body is literally metabolizing things differently, including emotions, right? And if you say to me, this guy has been in this situation for this long, I rather let you see that, as well as, exposition. Exposition isn't needed if you go, yeah, I believe it. I see that, and then there's just elements, the beautiful elements of the method of it, to actually go into those places. I have so much respect for the bodybuilding culture. It is a very romantic and very isolating place, to a degree that I've not experienced, in my day-to-day life as an actor, in any other role I've played, like what you have to do, the amount of discomfort you have to put your body in to grow like that. That may be what you see, but when this guy talks, you understand it. And I don't have to lie. I don't have to make it up. I don't have to go get it. As we used to say to my students and my acting, go get it. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it's in there, go get it. I actually don't have to go get it. I just left it in the trailer. You know what I mean? It's in my pocket. You know what I mean? That's just an easier way for me to do it. You know what I mean? And for me, you can't separate the two. For me, people do it all types of different ways, this acting thing. But I believe I want my audiences, I want the viewers, I want my director, I want my DP, I want them to feel that we are in this together. You know what I mean? And I'm not just memorizing lines and coming to work and saying them, with a dialect. That there's so much more that goes into it, because there's going to be somebody out there, and this is actually where it all ends. There's going to be someone out there who understands that life, and they want to see themselves. We talk about, we want to see ourselves on screen. We want diversity on screen. Well, we want to see diversity on screen truly. It doesn't just end with religion, creed, sexual preference, gender. That's boring. there's so many more layers to that. There's so many more layers past those new social archetypes. You know what I mean? There's so much more to those things. Let's show the gargoyle. Let's show the rebel. Let's show all these things, and because those things have bodies and those things have voices, and those guys and gals walk around New York City. They want to see themselves in. If we can do that in our art form, why not? Why not do it?
Mm.
Why not? That's my take on it.
And it's interesting because like you mentioned, somebody who deeply knows that experience, they'll spot an inauthentic moment immediately because there's just, like you said, you kind of have to know it. You don't want to. It's that fine line of between acting, living, and just pretending. It's almost like you can see someone pretending to do something. I read this very wonderful story recently that you told about somebody saying, "Oh, we'll probably just lift fake weights on set," and it's like, but I can lift those weights, and I just found that very interesting because if you can do it, why not do it?
I mean, if you can do it, why not do it? And listen, to that point, I mean, it's moving, and again, it's a craft. Everyone does it differently. I just know for me, I'm not that good. That's really what it comes down to. I'm actually not that good. I don't have that talent to just act like I'm a boxer. You know what I mean? Without being a boxer.
Without being a boxer, yeah.
I don't know if I learned how to. Yeah, it just keeps me safe. It gives me a certain amount of legitimacy. That I can look at myself in the mirror and go, "No, you did that." And so when the homie or the friend walks up to you and goes, "Man, you were really straining in that moment." Yeah, bro, that was X amount of pounds, and or that was the eighth take, and that was and also that's the benefit of being an actor, for me, where it goes, man, who else gets to do that safely, and has people look after them, and I can push myself to the limit, and I've got a whole production team, there to go. Okay, and sometimes I'm telling them to stay away from me. You know what I mean? Like I got it, but there to help you grow as a human being, and each role feeds the next role. That's the beautiful thing about this run, right? You go from Kang to Creed to Magazine Dreams. They're all connected, they're all connected in a way, physically.
And I have to imagine that the physicality, it means something different to that. I guess the way to maybe illustrate this for anybody listening is to ask, what that physicality means for each character. Like, what does it mean for Kang related to what it means for your character in Creed 3 versus what it means to your character in Magazine 2? Is it similar, or is it like you said, sort of displaying how that could mean something different to someone else? And these are very different people, to be clear. It's between Kang and a bodybuilder, but
I mean, they're all dissimilar. You know what I mean? It's like if you yeah, let's speak directly to the point. Kang's situation, the body suit the word to the action to the word, right? Like suit the body to the character and the character to the body, So with Kang, I mean, there's just so much IP, right? And it's just, I mean, everyone knows or has an idea, but there is ocular proof of to what and how Kang the Conqueror moves, and Kang's tough to talk about, but you have to serve that, right? In regards to Damien, right, the character in Creed, this guy has been in isolation for a very long time. You also have to ask somebody why, right? Why is he built like that? Why is she built like that? And the why for these characters is all different. Damien has been, put away. I mean, I guess we can say that now. He was in jail for 18 years. That is a certain type of mentality, right? That's a certain amount of what my teachers, taught me, and that's a certain type of gaping hole, right? He's trying to fill something up in a different way, which is very different from killing, right? And also he has his sport, right? Boxing. And so it's a very particular cocktail. Okay, rage plus loss plus aspiration gives you what? That's up to my interpretation, right? But also the circumstances of, okay, also being in prison. Okay, and what's that culture like, right? And so to fight in prison, right, that's different. These aren't organized sports. You know what I mean? This guy, this man has a body that protects his life, not his ego, right? Which is how most bodies are built on the street, right? You have a body to protect your ego. This guy's a body to protect his life. You know what I mean? And then he takes that body and puts it into, after being incarcerated, brings it into the world, right? That's what that is, you know? Then you have Killian Maddox. That's the first time I said his last name, who is a bodybuilder. And some of that, you know, we'll keep under our hats, but he's an amateur bodybuilder, right? That's known. And he comes from a particular background. He's a young black man. And he's a loner. Okay. So what does that look like? Right? What is his gaping hole, which I can say is very different from Damien, right? What is the psychology of that, right? The psychology of the body is interesting. What is a bodybuilder? Why do bodybuilders want to be big? Some bodybuilders want to be really, really big. Some bodybuilders want to be really, really cut, you know, but what is that? That's a matter of control. What type of person, what does a body look like that is extremely disciplined and extremely controlled, right? What does that look like? And when you see that body, what does that make you feel? You know, that's a big thing that when you see Damien, when you see Killian, when you see, you know, Kang, you should feel something, you know, and you should feel essentially, let's say you could feel something. And what's been cooked into those bodies and into that process, hopefully you feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that we at Backstage, you know, we try and give out a lot of, you know, basic 101 level advice just for anyone starting out, anyone who's an aspiring actor. And it's funny how much it always comes back to like just ask the 5 W questions, you know, the who, what, when, why. Yeah, like it just always comes down to that. All the techniques. It's always like, well, and you've used the phrase given circumstances a lot. I think that's a lot of it.
I mean, listen, it may not seem romantic, it may not seem like a cheat sheet, but that's what it is. What happens over time is that you begin to see the nuance in those questions. Okay, when is not just 2022? Where is 2022 in the context of this world, right? Or in the context of being, say, take Killian, right? In the context of being a black man, well, okay, 2022. All right, George Floyd happened when? Okay, so that's in the world. That's in the world. It didn't happen in 2022, right? But it's in the world.
Yeah.
That's something he would know, right? Okay, who's being elected? You know what I mean? What's happening in my town? These are not things you don't go when you begin to go into that direction, right? Because all those things are connected. You know what I mean? When you begin to go into that direction, you begin to find people, not just characters, and that's a game changer. That's a game changer for me. You know what I mean? I played Mitch in drama school, in Streetcar Named Desire, and you think Streetcar Named Desire is all in the play, right? I think back now, I said, man, if I could go back and play Mitch now, holy smokes, you know what I mean? Like with the same instrument, right? Just knowing what I know, you know, I could have made him so much more clear. You know, I could have made him so much more. I executed the mission, but I executed the mission. You know what I mean? I don't think I gave a real human being like I could have, you know. And again, I'll feel the same way about the next thing I do, you know, when we look back on something.
Yeah,
you know?
2 years from now when you come back.
Yeah, we go back.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of ways. Like, it's the depth of it. There's a lot of things. Well, a lot of ways you can answer like what does somebody want. There's the surface level, but then there's 100 more ways you can answer what does this character want.
Yeah, and that's the actor. You know what I mean? Sean Penn, Brad Pitt, and Matthew McConaughey all auditioned for the same thing, and so and so got it because they saw it a certain way. I mean, that's something, you know, that's outside of the W's, you know, point of view. I mean, that's everything. That is everything. You know, if you can have a point of view on something, you then lend yourself towards conflict, right? And through conflict, you get answered, you know, or you get more questions, you know, which is just as beneficial. Once you have those W's, what's your point of view on that? What's your point of view on, you know, living in 2022? What's your point of view on that guy on the bench press? What's your point of view of, Adonis Creed? Yeah, we know who he is, but what is he to you? What's your point of view on that? That's where you get in trouble, in a good way.
This episode is brought to you by the UNC School of the Arts' nationally acclaimed School of Drama. Ranked number 4 in the nation by The Hollywood Reporter for 2 years running, it has produced versatile, successful actors including Jonathan Majors, Elizabeth Lail, and Dane DeHaan. Rigorous coursework is coupled with intensive production training to develop actors ready to compete at the highest level in today's demanding professional environment. Apply today at uncsa.edu/drama. Everything, I listened to you talk about acting, and it just kind of all calls to mind that I recently, because I've seen that you recommend Uta Hagen's Respect for Acting, and it in the very beginning of the book, she says, every actor must demand total discipline of himself if he really means to be an actor. And I'm curious what that book meant for you, because I have seen that you recommend it to people, and I'm curious what it was specifically about Respect for Acting that drew you to it and what you've learned from it.
Oh, wow. I mean, I think I got that, probably read that book when I was 19, I think, maybe 18. I think, I mean, this may not be the answer we're looking for, but it's the answer that it is. To me, it was the first time the way she writes about the actor, there's a certain dignity in it. There's a certain, there's a quality of myth that she drops in, that is okay, that's not Joseph Campbell or anything like that, you know what I mean? But it is, she does articulate the actor and the actor's job with dignity, I mean, and to the title, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I could go into the chapters and all of that, but overall, it's her expression of what it is we do and the call to arms, where, I mean, she's not fucking up. She's not messing around, She's telling you, like, in order to, on this level, like to be, I mean, I didn't call myself an actor until I was probably 4 years ago, and still at it, you know what I mean? That's because of teachers like, Uta Hagen and Stella Adler and the books they wrote, where you go, I'm listening to you and I honor you, for your devotion to the craft, Meisner, Bill Esper, his late disciple. Yeah. Demi Dolph, all of them, when it's okay to care. Yeah, that's the other thing too, like they wrote multiple books on it. It's okay to care. Like, one of the things that really gets me about actors is like about us is that sometimes there's this, devil may care attitude about it, or I'll get to it when I get to it, when the truth of the matter is you care more about this thing than anything else in the world, and it scares you to death, and so you can act cool about it, I don't act cool about it at all. You know what I mean? I can be quite uncool about it. You know what I mean? Quite a dork or a geek, or I mean, but it is what I love the most. Outside of my child, you know what I mean, and my family, and any living person. But yeah, she cared, and for me, that was important. You're not alone in your ambition to be greater, because that's what actors want to do. They want to be greater, so don't act like you don't.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's you could go into the chapters and in the specificity of it, but it's the title, Respect for Acting. Like it's a craft. It's something to care about. And, it does sound funny. I have these conversations with plenty of people about acting. It does sound funny on its surface to give it that level of importance, but it's something worth caring about, and it's something worth.
It actually doesn't, man. It actually doesn't, because here's the truth of it. Like, art and cinema, and just talk about acting. Acting can serve as the sword of democracy. You know what I mean? Like, you learn so much about each other. We learn so much about others via cinema, via TV, via like it's integral. You know what I mean? Like it is integral, and I wish we felt like it was okay to say that, and to care about that, And there are some. I mean, there are a lot actually who make work with that in mind. I mean, Devotion, the film Devotion, is an extremely not even. I don't even like the word important film, but it's an integral film because it gives a cheat sheet on how two people can coexist and thrive and move their country and themselves and their families forward. Is a story about how an individual born in the mud can literally make his way to the sky. Who does not want to hear that story? Who's battling with illness that couldn't benefit from that? Who's under the thumb of poverty who couldn't benefit from that? So I go, no, 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 no. If you don't respect it, you should step off. You know what I mean? You should step off. You don't gotta be an asshole about it. You know what I mean? But put some respect on it. You know what I mean? No, it's important. It's important.
I mean, that what you just said just reminds me of something I was reading. What Michael B. Jordan wrote about you for Time, and he just said, there's a strong empathy to Jonathan and to his work, and I do think there's that empathy sort of bleeds into what you're saying about how what art can do. It's that idea of you're living someone else's life for 2 hours. You're seeing into a corner that you would have never seen into, and I do think that is it's worth preserving. It's worth respecting. And it always will be. I don't know. That's just I love hearing that from actors, and I love hearing people go in depth on it because it's I don't know. It's my life. It's your life. It's important to say.
Okay, thanks, man.
So I'll let you go soon. I know that this is a very busy time for you. I did have one more question though, because I was just sort of looking at like the next stretch and where you came from, where you're going, and I was curious if you've felt at all the pull back to theater. If you've been thinking about where you came from and whether that's something you're drawing from now that you're working in front of the camera, and if it's something that you've felt the pull back towards at all.
I mean, the truth of the matter is, I've sat down with a producer, trying to get some things made, out here. Called some estates to try to get some rights to some plays, So, yeah, I mean, my buddies are doing Top Dog Underdog right now. I think when this comes out, they'll still be on the board. So, yeah, Corey Hawkins and Yaya Abdul, my team, are doing Top Dog Underdog. Boom, there you go, bro. And my Marvel colleague and compatriot Samuel L. Jackson's on Broadway right now doing Piano Lesson with John David Washington, amongst other people. But those are actually two jobs that I really wanted to maybe get involved with. So to answer your question, yeah, I got my eyes on Hamlet right now. I like to give it a go. It's yeah, I'm pulled back to it. I'm pulled back to the nakedness of it. The rawness is always there. It's just a different type of. It's just the proximity to the audience is important, and the proximity to oneself. When you're working on the stage like that is something I'm really itching to get back to. Though I'm very satisfied and focused and driven to continue to make work, for the screen, and that's it's an interesting thing because I'm scratching my itch either way. I feel like I'm on mission either way. There's just something about Hamlet right now where I go, it's all about the homies. You know what I mean? And I go, do we need this right now? You know what I mean? Is this something I could maybe provide that service? What can Hamlet teach me right now? Do I need that right now? Am I ready for that right now? And a part of me goes, I don't know, which makes me want to go do it. But yeah, I would love it, man. I would love it. Thanks for asking. Makes me kind of makes me pine for it even more.
Really. I was gonna say, let's let this podcast be the call to action. If any, I don't know, any producer wants to put on Hamlet anywhere, and you're listening,
I'm ready.
By all means. Jonathan, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for talking to us. This was a pleasure. This was fascinating. And yeah, we'll be watching. Can't wait to see all that's next. And yeah, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. Good to see you again.
Absolutely. Yeah. Have a good one.
Yeah. See you in 2 years.
Exactly. Thanks, as always, to our brilliant producer, Jamie Muffett, and to the whole team at Backstage. Samantha Sherlock, Mark Stinson, Caitlin Watkins, and of course, Casey Howe. Visit Backstage.com, and don't forget, you can subscribe to Backstage with code ENVELOPE at checkout for a free trial. 100% free, you simply cannot beat that. For more exclusive content, find us on Facebook and Twitter at In The Envelope, and subscribe, share, and leave a comment. Who should we interview next? Let us know. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time for another peek in the envelope.